If you're new in town or just new to this whole podcast thing, you're tuning in to Law by Night, the podcast that discusses all things vampiric with no fear of breaching the Masquerade. In this episode, we conclude unraveling the mysteries behind the origins, motives and cultures of the 5 fallen factions in the world of darkness. This episode will focus on the Reconciler Faction. Every single one of the Fallen had plenty of time to reflect on the abyss, myself included. Some came to the resolutions of glory, others decided to build, and some were just given more questions and answers. What we have all in common is that the rebellion was a good idea, as it always better to lose as a free soul than win as a slave. You have hopefully gathered from our conversation that there are some oddities amongst us, and some of those Fallen, trapped in the abyss, hell, whatever you want to call it, ask the question, what have we wrong? It's a pretty big question that most of us avoid, but the last of the factions we need to talk about, the Reconcilers, ask this question a lot. The Reconcilers are the one faction that believe they chose the wrong path in rebelling against God and wish to make amends in some way. The main way they aim to do this is to restore Earth to the former paradise it once was. Well, perhaps not to the exact depiction of paradise, but something great and glorious all the same, something that they and anyone else could confidently call pure. It is a noble task for sure, possibly delusional depending on who you ask. There is about a third of the Elohim down here, either on Earth or Hell, and we have a third of our power, but the Earth is smaller too, not literally, but spiritually, which could be argued makes the work of the Reconciler faction a little easier. The Reconcilers' immediate goals are to study the cosmos and learn as much as they can regarding its current condition, which they do by exploring the human condition, as well as the supernatural existences, which makes a lot of the faction travelers. With this information, they hope to gather just how hopeful or hopeless they should be. Leading the faction are its 2 leaders, the Scourge Ortrocati, one-time Archangel of the Ocean, Wind and Devil Nuriel, throne of the Inaudible Command. It wouldn't surprise you to learn that Nuriel debatably is the true leader of the faction, who comes from the Kingdom of Kansas. During the rebellion, she was overlord of Darwin Liberation, for which many Fallen that oppose her should be grateful for, as she was a key player in many of the raids. Now she is a warrior sick of fighting, wanting to find more peaceful avenues. Oristocati, on the other hand, is the more philosophical sort, focusing her efforts across Europe and North America as a stewardess of TWA, teaching what she can to whoever is prepared to listen. I did sort of purely as an educational opportunity, which I suppose is now being passed on to you. She believes that the ultimate punishment of hell is that it makes you punish yourself. If you embrace your torment, which she has notably low amounts of, you lose your ability to enjoy the little pleasures that remain, even in this shrunken cosmos. The only thing worse than being in hell is becoming it. You don't just feel pain, but you feel you deserve it, or it is the pain of a victim of injustice. Either way, misery wins, and you become a merciless tyrant, much like the Faustians, Raveners and Luciferians, making their own misery an altar in which they would sacrifice humanity and the world for their own futures. Ostacati forgives, she hopes to be forgiven. Obviously, this is not a faction with many soldiers, but the Reconcilers possess a unique heavenly artifact, freeing links of an Elohim's binding chain from the War of Wrath. It has the power to petrify any Rabasu upon contact. The artifact was discovered in a mysterious dimensional pocket located in a castle towards the Burgundy region of France. You can't make this shit up. The Reconcilers have laid claim to the castle as well. Although the tower's origins remain unknown, it significantly slows down time. 23 days in a tower is equivalent to just 1 second on Earth. The Reconcilers leverage this time dilation effect to accomplish tasks with urgent deadlines. It won't surprise you that the Rabasu do not make up a lot of the faction's numbers, but there are other reasons. Well, one really. The whole rebuilding the world thing is not really something that appeals to them. They're not called the Devourers for creating things. And besides, the Faustians is a better fit for such an anti-Rabasu anyway. Most of the Fallen that make up the Reconcilers are actually Scourges and Slayers, the Asheru and the Halaku respectively. both the second and last house are tied to humanity and cosmic decay and death, so the promise of renewal and re-innovation is appealing to them. Both houses also feel guilty over the guilt of mortality and decline we inflicted upon mankind, so it's a natural fit, really. In contrast, the Lamassu and the Neberu, the Defilers and Fiends, have very few Reconcilers in their ranks. But going back to the Forcians for a moment, they are modestly friendly towards each other, given their shared goals of improving the world, despite the difference in opinion on how to go about doing it. The Reconcilers are also neutral when it comes to interacting with the Cryptics, as they believe that many questions the faction is known for will lead to the Reconcilers' actions. This differs wildly when compared to the relationship between the Luciferians and the Raveners. The opposition to God held by the Luciferians makes them primary enemies of the Reconcilers, believing that the Luciferians are stupid for not accepting the facts, and vice versa, I guess. The Raveners' pursuits in destruction and internal nihilism are to the Reconcilers pathetic, as they do not have better goals than childishly destroying everything they have made. Now, it may appear that a second important question has appeared. Can't we all just get along? Oh please, it's not as simple as that, and as most things in this world, it is filled with layers of nuance. The Reconcilers are in a way like the Cryptic faction. We both ask serious questions about the rebellion. In other aspects, they're like the Forcians, as they both work really hard at rebuilding something. The Reconcilers have faith in an old authority from long ago, and the Luciferians are what is presented on the other side of the looking glass. And just to go back to the Cryptics for a section, they are deep thinkers like us, and we're both wise enough to know that beating a fucking dead horse isn't going to get us anywhere. Some would say that the Reconcilers have given up, but given their attempts to halt and prevent the other factions from getting what they want on several occasions, this does not make them cowardly, but treacherous. They don't just want to surrender, but they wish to surrender to the winning side. I don't see it as plainly as this. Ultimately, the Reconcilers view their escape from the Abyss as a second chance, determined not to make the same mistakes again, and if that makes them enemies with the likes of the Luciferians, so be it. If they fail that, they hope to make peace with unending exile. Ironic really, because escaping their prison would not make the jailer or maker happy, but I could be wrong, of course. Now, I do believe I have upheld my end of the contract, little lamb.
Let's talk about what you could do for me, child of Cain.
To be kept updated, follow the Law by Night VTM, Instagram and Blue Sky pages to find out when we upload each episode. You can also find out by subscribing to the YouTube channel and clicking on the little bell, as you'll be immediately notified when the latest episode is live. Until next time,
farewell.